I want to talk about sexy robots, though, damn it. Yeah, alright, keep asking questions, please. It's always more fun that way. In fact, it has been shown that android-type robots that look exactly like humans, are preferred as communication partners to mechanical-type robots that are similar to humans in figure but have metallic or mechanical appearance, and humans in sports exercise situations. Okay. Oh, and in humans... I don't know what that sentence means, but whatever. Other studies have also mentioned the effect of physical appearance of robots in many situations. Thus, it is important to consider the physical appearance of robots when introducing them into our daily lives because their appearance can be an important factor when facilitating interaction with humans. Like, so are we not going to they, them robots? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to pick some other gender for robot gender? I mean, it does make sense that maybe there wouldn't be to make like a separate robot one, but would that be like anti-roboticist? I don't know. Okay, there are numerous aspects to physical appearance. The one that influences gender assignment cannot be ignored. Robots are characterized by their physicality, which makes it easy for humans to assign gender arbitrarily. Therefore, the problems associated with gender-specific properties, so-called gendered robots, should be carefully examined and discussed. The interaction between robots and humans in daily life applications. You see, here's what I want to do. I want to put, this is like incredibly stupid at the moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to put that there for now. And what we're going to do here is this is not the best program for this, but like this is what I just got going here. So this is what we're talking about at the moment. Sexy robots. I'm sorry, I'm entertaining myself way too much with this. But like this is what I want to do at the moment, like have something so people know what is going on because it's very hard to walk into philosophy. So I want sexy robots to be right there so everyone can see it. Okay. The interaction between robots and humans in daily life applications should be considered to determine whether humans prefer robots with the same or a different gender. In addition to existing studies suggesting that males generally express positive responses towards robots more than females do, the effect of the gender of robots on human psychological and behavioral reactions towards these robots has been examined. For example, a comparison experiment between a mechanical humanoid robot and an android with a female appearance indicate that the university students preferred female robots for domestic use. Furthermore, previous studies have indicated that men and women tend to prefer robots with female features and male features, respectively, suggesting cross-gender effects. For example, in an experiment in which a humanoid robot had a non-gendered appearance and its gender was manipulated by voice quality, visitors were asked to make a monetary donation and answer a questionnaire. The results showed a cross-gender effect in that male participants were more likely to donate money to the female robot than women were. Moreover, male participants rated female robots as more credible and trustworthy than male robots, whereas the converse was observed with female participants. See, this is expected, but I like the fact that, like, we're just as dumb as I thought we were. We're like, ooh, sexy robot female. Like, I like that because I'm a guy, and then women are the exact same, just, cis women are probably just the exact same for the exactly the same reasons. Donating money to a robot, basically, I wouldn't be surprised on Twitch. I mean, yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised if there were, like, automated things that, like, people were donating money to. It's like, yeah, don't forget to, like, drop your Prime sub. It's like, yeah, I bet that happens. Like, this is why I find this, like, whole platform interesting, because that's probably happening right now on a different channel. Like, right now. Okay. Anywho, in another experiment in which participants solved puzzles while I'm so sorry, folks, but yeah, this is like I lost my stream right there for a good while, and that's unfortunate. I don't quite know where it cut out, but yeah, still says unstable though, which I dislike, but hopefully it'll hold up. I don't know. Like, I just hope it'll hold up. It doesn't say I'm dropping any frames at the moment. Yeah. So, I'm gonna try to soldier on at this point, and I'll just have to figure it out as we're going. Let me know. Yeah. So, hopefully, I'm sorry to everyone that I'm just sorry. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, so yeah. Okay, so this is a study at this point. Like, they went and they started asking people about this stuff. So 1,000 adult men and women aged 20 to 60 years. Yeah, I know you have worse problems than I do. I appreciate it. So 500 men and 500 women, 200 each in each 10-year age range from 20 to 60 participate in the study. So this is like a big questionnaire study they did here. From the communications used in a previous study, those situations in which the percentage of respondents who selected an Android-type robot or a mechanical-type robot was higher than that of a human were selected. Situation sets A and B refer to those with Android-type robots and mechanical-type robots, respectively. Situation set A contains tasks and communication that are relatively complex, whereas situation set B contains ones that are relatively simple. The details of each situation are presented in Table 1. We'll look at that in a minute. In addition, sample images of the robots were shown to the respondents so that they could easily identify the Android and mechanical type robots. That'll also be in Figure 1. In this survey, the Android-type robot was defined as a robot that looks exactly like a human, and the mechanical-type robot was defined as a robot that is similar to a human but has physical appearance consisting of metal and machinery. Okay, so we've got a Table 1. This is the details of the situations that are in situation sets A and B. So situation set A is accepting domestic care in declining years, accepting caring for the aged in facilities in their declining years, asking for company for shopping for daily necessities and food, so like a companion robot, asking for company for outdoor pleasures and sports such as playing catching and jogging. So this is not just a companion, but this is like a companion you can interact with. And then grumbling at home. I like that. I don't know what that really means, grumbling at home, but that sounds like it's amazing. All right, situation set B is asking for directions to stations and streets, asking about processing the payment at checkout counters in shops, and having fortunes told in shops on the street. So these are things we basically already have in some sense. Like this sort of thing here is like Google Maps, and like service bots. Like you call up on a phone, you can find out about processing payments and stuff, and you could definitely call up on a phone and get your fortune told to you. So, but these things here, in situation set A, this is way more sophisticated. Like having a companion bot to help you out with things is different from, a narrowly defined set of questions and answers that, would be required for directions to stations and streets versus being a companion where you might have to do lots of a variety of things as you're getting older. Okay. Gender preferences. Gender preferences for humans. In each situation, the respondents were asked to choose whether they wanted to interact with a person of the same... Okay, we got pictures down here, so... It's like, look at the pictures. These are the sexy robots. Okay. In each situation, the respondents were asked to choose whether they want to interact with a person of the same or of a different gender in each situation with the following options. I want to interact with a person of the same gender, I don't mind either, and I want to interact with a person of a different gender. Gender preferences for robots. For the android-type robot, the respondents were asked to make choices similar to the ones they did previously when choosing which kind of people to interact with based on their gender. For the mechanical-type robot, we asked for respondents in the same way. So I guess these are like sort of sample images of the robots. So this is going to be the male-gendered, I guess, humanoid. This is the female-gendered humanoid, android. And these are the, I don't know why you gender this. This one's just taller than this one. But like, yeah, they're mechanical things. So, yeah. Alright, so this psychological scale, alright, so we've got a short form of the scale of egalitarian gender role attitudes. So this is a psychological scale that comprised 15 items and was used to measure equality orientation in the gender role attitudes of men and women. Responses were measured using a 5-point Likert type scale with options ranging from 1 strongly agree to 5, 1 is strongly disagree to 5 strongly agree. This scale consists of items such as women should continue to work even after having children, and if a wife has a job, it is not good because it increases the burden on her family. The higher the score, the greater is the degree of equality orientation in gender role attitudes. Procedure. The survey was conducted in October 2020 by monitors registered with a web-based survey company. This study was approved by an ethics review committee. The data that supports the finding and study are available from the corresponding author upon reasonable request. So here's the results. Prior to the subsequent analysis, the answers regarding gender preferences were converted from same gender and different gender to male, female, and neither based on the gender of the respondent. Then they were used for analysis. Okay, so it wasn't like they just had a standard set of questions. They switched it up in some sense, depending on who the person taking the test was. So if someone identified as male, then they, switched up some of the one that was different gendered to female for them, which is, in this situation, seems reasonable. Not reasonable, it seems appropriate. Excuse me. I don't like using the word reasonable. Proportion of gender preferences. First, we summarize the gender preference ratios for humans and android type robots in situation set A. In most of the situation set A, either and female were selected by more than 90% respondents for android type robots, and either was selected slightly more often than female, and the same trend was observed in the selection of humans. The result of this summary of gender preferences ratios for android type robots is shown in figure 2. So this is figure 2. So male, either female. So male is, I don't know how much it's showing up on the screen, but you can see over here, this bit here, that's the male. So it's pretty low. It looks lower than 20% at all times, probably lower than 15%. Either is the vast majority, and then female is this like light green over here, and that is over it's over 15%, usually over 20% for all the different sort of type A situations, which were the more sophisticated ones. Using the data set of situation A, we examine the association between participants' gender and their gender preferences. The associations between the gender and gender preferences for humans, gender and gender preferences for android-type robots, and gender preferences for humans and gender preferences for android-type robots are shown in Table 2. Alright, so this is, okay. That was what I just was describing. This one here, where's my mouse? There. It's interesting, I've got two mice on the screen. Anyway, for some situations, the gender preferences for humans differed according to the participant's gender, but the gender preferences for the android-type robots did not differ considerably. The results also showed that a relationship existed between the gender preferences for humans and the gender preferences for robots. So yeah, if you wanted a male person, you also wanted the, like, pseudo-male robot, the one that was kind of gendered. Using the data of situation set B, we examine the association between participants' gender and gender preferences. That's table 3. It's the one down here. In all situations, the gender preferences for both humans and mechanical type robots did not differ based on the participants' gender. The results also showed that a relationship existed. Well, to get to the between gender preferences for humans and for robots, similar to data of situation set A. So, again, these two data sets here. This stupid stream is driving me crazy. I can't look at this thing. Hide the video player. But you can see up here that the complex tasks, and these are the more simplistic tasks underneath. Basically, they're pretty similar. Like, most of it is either, and like it's 5% or less want the male. Maybe this is about 10 to 15% would requested female, and the rest no one cared. Now it's a more ambivalent thing for the simple tasks. You can see there's more variation for the complex tasks. The simple tasks are more straightforward, but basically the results are similar. Okay. So, egalitarian gender role attitudes according to participants' genders and gender preferences. Figure 4 shows the descriptive statistics of the score according to participants' genders and the gender preferences for android-type robots in situation set A. A two-factor analysis of variance was conducted with the participants' genders and gender preferences as independent variables and the Sursa score as the dependent variable in situation set A. Note that the percentage of male being chosen as the preferred gender was very small, just a few percent in most cases, so it was excluded from analysis. The results indicated that the effect of gender was significant in all situations, while the main effect of gender preference and the interaction effect on the gender preference for humans was not significant in all situations. The interaction effect, yeah, so what you're sort of doing is not actually significant. It's just you either like one or the other, but what you're doing is not actually important. The results indicate that the effect of gender was significant in all situations, the main effect of gender preference was significant in a single case, and the interaction effect on gender preferences for the android-type robots was not significant in all situations. So these numbers, basically, that's what these tables are up here, showing this stuff. So basically, yeah, you either have a preference for the male or the female, and it translates to the robots a little bit, but basically, if you want to be dealing with a male-gendered robot or a female-gendered robot, that's what you pick. But it doesn't really matter what you're doing with them. Okay, figure 5 shows the descriptive statistics of the scores according to the participants' gender and the gender preferences for the mechanical type robots in situation set B. A two-factor analysis of variance was conducted in situation set B, similar to situation set A. The results indicated that the main effect of the participants' genders was significant for all situations. The main effect of gender preference was significant in one case, and the interaction effect on the gender preference for humans was not significant in all situations. The results indicate that the main effect of participants' genders and gender preferences were significant in all situations, and the interaction effect on the genders preferences of the mechanical type robots was not significant in all situations. You know, this is one of those, I was going to say this earlier, but like this is one of those no shit Sherlock, like we're in a no shit Sherlock thing. Like, if you are a horny male guy, you don't actually care if you're dealing with like pictures or whatever. Like, this is why guys have pictures of like girls on the wall. They just like looking at girls. And the question is, if you want to have a robot there, do you actually think you're gonna have a sex with the robot? Probably not. But like, you're gonna want something that you like nearby. And it's just part of like being a guy. It's like, you know, guys have pictures of like women on their wall. Like, this is a fact of life. And I suspect it's the same with women too. It doesn't show up that you see pictures of sexy guys as often, but you know, people do this all the time. And so it just feels like this is sort of cashing out, that even when people know that what they're dealing with is a robot and not a human, like you're still getting these effects. And the way you're interacting with them is there's something else might be going on here. It's not so much the interaction, which the science is showing. It's not the interaction, but in some sense, this is just how people are. We like looking at certain things, and there's a really fun sort of old video now. There's this art critic called Hennessy Youngman, and he was making these videos on YouTube a while back, and he got a little what's it called? Viral. He went viral. If anyone's ever seen Hennessy Youngman, it was called Art Talk with Hennessy Youngman. I suggest you go check out his videos on aesthetics, and yeah. I was wondering if you knew what those were, Aristotle. I was like, I bet you know. I bet he does know what those are. So, but there was when he was talking about beauty, and he was like, why are we arguing about beauty? We like looking at pretty people. And it's just, I've had that in my head this whole time. They're like, Hennessy Youngman being like, why would you not have a beautiful woman on your painting if you want to, like, sell stuff? Like, that's just how you get people's attention. So, anyhow, but, like, it's interesting because it shows how little our interactions matter. It's just a sort of like a visual thing that we have. Because, yeah. Okay, so discussion. Let's see what they have to say about it. In this study, we aim to clarify whether people prefer robots with male or female appearances in communication situations, and whether equality orientation in gender role attitudes is related to this preference. We also compared the results obtained with gender preferences of humans. Tendency of gender preference. First, we checked the ratios of human android type robots and mechanical type robots that were selected, and results showed that in any situation for any subject, males was not selected and females or neither was selected. Furthermore, the number of respondents who chose either was higher than those who chose female. This was more noticeable in situations with simple tasks, including situation set B, and more for robots than for people. In other words, in terms of users' needs, genders do not need to be assigned to robots when introducing them into daily life. It may be a good idea to introduce a robot with a gender-neutral physical appearance to prevent the reproduction of gender stereotypes in robots. So that's interesting. So when they did the study, it means basically when people know it's a robot, especially when people know it's a robot, the gender doesn't matter. And for the most part, it doesn't matter anyway. In some cases, we do prefer it, and I think that's just it. It could also be, according to like this other effect I'm talking about, that we just like looking at pretty things. Okay, when the relationship between participants' genders and gender preferences was examined, we confirmed that the effect of gender on the gender preference of a robot weakened when the human factor was eliminated. In situations at A, even if the object was a human, the participant's gender had a slight effect on the preference, but if the object was an android-type robot, the effect was weaker. In addition, in situations at B, there was almost no preference based on participants' genders, even if the object was a human. This means that regardless of one's own gender, the expected gender differed depending on the content of the task. Even if gender preference may differ in different situations, if the physical anthropomorphic properties of the robot are reduced, the influence of the gender preference of the user will become weaker. Therefore, to prevent the reproduction of gender stereotypes in robots, making this elimination in the design may be a simple solution. Yes. But again, on the other hand, if you are trying to get people to do something, maybe you want that edge. So, like, basically, let's just go with the porn bot example. If you're doing a simple task like giving someone instructions, it doesn't matter, and then you don't need gender stereotypes. If you were trying to sell, like, sex robots, then you're going to need to, get the hot people are hot comment back. So, but if you're trying to like get the edge on your competition, then maybe you do need to exploit that humans like things that they think are pretty. So, like in this case, there was a bias towards female robots, basically very small, but it was across the board. So, are there situations where that will be important? Yeah, there might be. And like say in an emergency situation, which we did not discuss here, but in an emergency situation, you need people to follow tasks very quickly. And so that edge might make a difference. That if like people listen to women robots, maybe a woman robot yelling at people in an emergency situation is the thing. And then of course I just was watching Alien yesterday. We get into the mother situation with the evil overlord computer or ship what's called Mother. Aristotle says it's a chicken or the egg kind of situation. Are female robots sexy because of misogyny, or are female robots contributing to the misogyny further? Maybe both, you guess. Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with actual people. I'm thinking it's basically a cultural thing that most. I mean, I don't know where this study was conducted. I should look this up. But like, let's assume just because they've got two Japanese names on the. Yeah, this is I assume this was done out of Japan, but I mean, and it's nothing against the Japanese, but like, of course, they've got gender roles in Japan. That's a fact of life. We have gender roles here in the U.S. They have slightly different gender roles in Japan, and so you're gonna bring all this baggage to the situation. And so, is it sexy because of misogyny? Not even misogyny. It's just these are going to be cultural baggage that we're bringing, that these are the roles that women have played here. Now, maybe some of that's misogynistic, but like, I'm not even sure like that is. It may just be cultural history that like, in some cultures women do these tasks, and other cultures they don't. And like, if you go to a different culture, there's nothing misogynistic about it. It's just that's history. So the question is, again, if you need to get an edge in a certain culture, could you exploit the historical gender, not stereotypes, but the historical gender roles? So that's all it is. But again, like I said, if you're making like sex robots, I can guarantee you immediately that the sexier the robot you make, the more money you're going to make. Okay. So in both situations, that's the association between the gender preference for humans and both types of robots was found to be moderate, and the strength of the association was comparable. In other words, those who tended to prefer a particular gender of robots also tended to prefer a particular gender of humans. Similarly, we suggest that the people who do not have a gender preference for humans are less likely to have one for robots. Thus, it is possible that assigning genders to robots may not necessarily increase gender bias. Chiron says, is there a level of intelligence that sex robots can be programmed with, or gets to the point that consent becomes an issue? If you have never seen Ghost in the Shell, you should go watch that, because that in that sci-fi classic, they basically, and I should just say Ghost in the Shell 2, which was not really Ghost in the Shell. Basically, they've got a problem is that AIs are getting a little too smart, and people like it. This is the problem. This one sex robot company has really sort of lifelike things about their robots, and it's creepy as hell. And people are like, this is like the best sex robot ever. And so it's like in that sci-fi cyberpunk sort of hellscape that it is. This is exactly happening. Hello, Spinal Clone. Welcome in. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. We're talking about gendered robots and sexy robots at the moment. So there's going to be a question in the future, MDD. But yeah. Well, we all, I think, agree with the bottom right corner. I am glad you're with us. The question is, what is, of course, consent? Like, can a robot actually consent if they have a deterministic program? Of course, if they don't have a deterministic program, if they have some sort of something else that wasn't programmed into them, then I don't know. But like, the real problem is all of our current robots at this point are basically, we wouldn't say they're conscious, so they can't give consent. Now, if at any point we start worrying about that, then yeah, it's going to be a problem. I don't know when. I don't know when we're actually going to get there. Cryonic says, does consent even matter with robot? Well, that's the problem. When will it matter? I don't think it matters at the moment because basically, I mean, like, this is my phone. Like, it's a phone. It's Google Pixel. There is nothing in this phone that has any agency or will. Nothing. Everything in it is programmed. It's silicon that we put together because we know exactly is going to do exactly what we say it's going to do. So there is no concept of consent at that point. Do we have free will? Well, or can we give consent? Like, we think we can. We don't think that, like, things like phones can. We could be wrong about that. If we were wrong about that, then we do have to, figure out how to ask consent and things like that to not trample on the robot's rights as a moral agent. But I don't think we have anything to worry about for a long time. Because there's no reason to think that we are doing any moral harm to, like, a piece of plastic. We just aren't. It's like, are you going to go ask your, it's like your pocket pussy or something? Like, is this okay with you? Like, it's a piece of plastic. So, Midicrone says, yeah, you can make odd situations to it. Like, is it possible for a sex robot to be intelligent and maybe even have some sort of preference while also not having phenomenological experience? Or, yeah, so could we make a sex robot philosophical zombie? So they could be intelligent. Like a philosophical zombie is something that acts and looks just like a normal human, but has no phenomenological experience. So they have no sense of what it's like to be conscious. But, they're just operating in some sense like a robot. So, yeah, but Cryonics, we could make a robot that screams when we do something, like twist its arm. So, of course, they can't feel pain in the sense that we can feel pain, but, like, we could make a robot that screams. Like, I'm sure people have made robots that scream for different reasons. But, like, yeah, so that's the problem also, Midicrone, is that what exactly is consciousness and what would it be? So, like, could we tweak it so that it's, well, all right, here's the worst one, Midicrone. And bring this up because someone made basically a Matrix style pod system for growing chickens. So basically, it's a pod system for making lots and lots of chickens. They're grown in pods, and like it's like the Matrix, where you've got just like this wall of pods that the chickens are grown in for consumption, and the chickens are basically headless. They've got no brain in them. They're just like growing the bodies so that they could be in this sort of farm, like a chicken farm, like a vertical chicken farm. I was an art student, and I shared it with Aristotle's chat once. It's a great thing. I can't pull it up right here, right now, though. Otherwise, I would. But could we build people? Like lobotomize people and then be like, okay, this person has no phenomenal consciousness, but you can have sex with them because they have no brain and they're not alive anymore. We're just keeping their body alive. I mean, that is incredibly creepy. But like, we could do that. We could make people with no phenomenological experience because they have no brain, and so they have no phenomenology. I mean, that would be some sort of horrific hellscape again, but they don't feel pain. So it's like, you want to talk about, isn't that necrophilia? Well, were they ever alive, spinal clone? We grew them. They may not be. They may never have been alive in that point, or alive as we know them, as we know life, because they never had a brain. We basically made a body. So these are cloned bodies. Yeah, see, cryonics, a robot programmed to scream is different than a person screaming from pain. But again, that's getting back to the question of what is it that what is it that's different from us and them? Like, we can make a robot that has all the sort of associated things that we do just by getting more and better at our robotics. But yeah, but see, that's the thing. We need to figure out exactly what the line is, where about consent and like what level of consciousness something has before we need to treat it as a moral agent. And people try to give moral status to like monkeys and elephants and places in the world. Like I believe the Ganges River has a special place in Indian law. So it's like these things are significant, and people do treat different objects or places and animals in different ways. And so at a certain point we might have to do this also for certain kinds of robots. If a certain robot has a certain kind of processor, a learning computer, maybe you need to treat it differently. You're glad you're Ace, so you don't have to worry about this in the future. Well, welcome in Ace friends too. NB's, Aces, and everyone else. I mean, I can't claim this is a safe space because like I do talk about these very weird topics sometimes, but yeah, if you're dodging this one, good on you. It's like, yeah, I don't know, like, but this is why I say if you have not gone to see Ghost in the Shell or Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex movie, they deal with these creepy, weird situations. I love the series for it. So you should go watch Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence, which is not really Ghost in the Shell. They made a noir in the Ghost in the Shell world, which talks about this with sex robots that are gaining consciousness. And Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which was a TV series, and then they made a movie of the TV series where basically like it's just all about like sort of weird things about robots basically gaining levels of consciousness and like people not being able to handle the societal issues. So this is one of my favorite series, is the Ghost in the Shell, all the things. I haven't seen the recent ones, but I should go watch them. But yeah, do you have any other questions? I can come up with really weird situations. It's what I'm good at. Yeah. So, but this is the thing. So again, if we get down to what this paper is saying, though, is that when it comes to push comes to shove, if you have a gender preference as a human, you're going to want that gender preference to show up in what you're looking at. But when it comes to the interactions, that matters less. It looks like they said right here, when you correct for the human interaction, then the bias goes away. So basically, it's not so much the interaction, it's something else, and it's probably what you like. All right, let's go read just this last little bit to see what the authors conclude. In addition, in some situations for Android-type robots, and in all situations for machine-type robots, the equality of orientation and gender role attitudes was shown to be higher for those who were not specific about their preference for a robot's gender. Therefore, people with a low gender bias were less likely to have a gender bias towards robots, and the introduction of a robot with a specific gender did not increase any gender bias. In this regard, the problem is not associated with the design of the robot, but the gender bias that people already have toward one another. Therefore, to intervene in and solve the problem of gender bias against robots, educating people about gender bias is an effective solution. Moreover, for people with a pre-existing gender bias, the introduction of gender in the design of a robot may increase this bias. It is important to examine this point in the future. Okay, so they're basically saying, look, it's a cultural problem. It's not a robot problem, which is what I suspected. But it's interesting that it didn't also show up in our tools, like, because a robot's kind of like a tool. So the fact that it didn't show up here is, it's interesting that like once you get to this level of interaction, it didn't actually matter. Okay, continuing. Although it has been reported that gendered robots may lead to the reproduction of gender stereotypes, the present results do not suggest this, at least not in the context of this empirical study. An investigation into whether this is related to the culture of Japan or whether it is limited to the situation examined in this study will need to be conducted in the future. Yeah, I figured this was Japan. So, like, they admit, like, maybe this is, like, the Japanese people have a different take than other cultures. The results also showed that the numerous respondents did not prefer the gender of their communication robot. Based on this viewpoint, there is no need to introduce a robot that specifies its gender. thereby preventing the reproduction of gender stereotypes. Okay, so let's get this last paragraph. In Japan, when robots are introduced into daily life, there is no need to give them a specific gender appearance. Although providing a robot with a feminine appearance may be preferable to some due to past traditions, presently it may be more appropriate to introduce robots with a gender-neutral appearance to avoid reproducing any gender bias. There is also the possibility that introducing these kinds of robots will be more acceptable abroad. Certainly, there may be cases where it is better to assign a gender depending on the characteristics of the situation or purpose, but it should be done with careful consideration. Yeah, so this is very reasonable, and it's interesting that, not reasonable, I hate using that word. I keep saying it now because it's a weasel word, and when I'm not being specific enough. But the point is, most of the time for everyday tasks, it doesn't matter to people what kind of robot you're dealing with if you know you're dealing with a robot. If you're dealing with people, then you get the historical baggage along with it. But if you're just dealing with robots, it matters less. And in some sense, that does make sense. That if you correct for human features, the way we're interacting with the world, it doesn't matter what kind of thing we're interacting with. Cryonic says, regarding the robot consent issue, I guess I just disagree that it's possible to program a robot that feels physical and emotional pain. No, I agree. Well, it's not currently possible. In some sort of cyberpunk future, in some sort of futuristic thing, yeah, maybe, but we're not there yet. I mean, currently, I completely agree with you. I don't really care. You can go smash all the computers you want. There's nothing to feel morally bad outside of making a mess. Midi Crone says, wasn't there a thing where men were less likely to listen to GPS with a female voice? I don't remember that, but I think that would fall under the cultural thing, because this study basically said that when they were giving instructions, they didn't care. Actually, that's not true. No one liked listening to men. Basically, no one cared about listening to men. That's the very small green line, the dark green here. I don't know how easy it is to show up on stream, but that's the very small thing. No one wanted to hear men. Basically, everyone was either neutral or women only. And so I bet the situation was a while ago when people were when the GPS wasn't as good. Because I think people now is basically, you go on autopilot when you have GPS on. You're not actually trying to think about where to go. I suspect back in the day when people had stronger sort of senses of direction, like I know better, then maybe that would overrule the authority of the voice telling you that. But yeah, I don't know. Like Midi Crone, Chiron. It's just my suspicion is that was back when the technology was less well understood. Cryonics, you don't think it's going to ever be possible? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be possible anytime soon. Not in any reasonable time frame. So, like 50 years, no, I think maybe 100 years. Once you're getting that far out, I don't know actually what the state of society will be. But yeah, I'm not thinking any time in my lifetime. I'm mostly with you. I just don't want to start saying oh yeah, it's never gonna happen in 200 years, and society's very different than it is now when it happens. I don't know how far out we can go with tech, but as of right now, I don't think it's happening. So yeah, so it won't be a problem with robot consent. Why do you think it's impossible? So, I mean, why can't a robot gain consciousness at some point? And therefore declare cryonics? Qualia? Why can't they gain qualia? Yeah, and like I said, if you haven't watched Ghost in the Shell, go do that. The original movie is basically about consciousness in robots. It's a classic. It's a classic cyberpunk. It's from 1995, and even though not all of it holds up, a lot of it holds up, and it's such a cool movie, and a lot of current media references back to the original Ghost in the Shell movie. Like certain scenes in The Matrix are actually the Wachowskis said that they took that those scenes from, like the ideas for those scenes from Ghost in the Shell. Like the opening credits in Ghost in the Shell is the inspiration for the falling digital rain in The Matrix. There's also a scene towards the end where Neo is running through a market. Apparently, they made the market scene just like a Ghost in the Shell market scene. So it's like, if you haven't seen Ghost in the Shell, it's classic, and I love that stuff. I mean, Midi-Cron, I don't know about cyborgs and cryonics, because isn't cryonics just freezing stuff? Cyborgs, like if you are half human, half... Like if you meld a human and stuff into a machine, then you'd probably inherit the human's ability to have agency and be a moral agent. So then you would have to have consent again. So, but that's just the problem is, in a world with like Terminators where the things are... Oh, at cryonics. Oh, sorry. That makes way more sense. That makes a lot more sense. I was like, why is he talking? Well, why are they talking? I don't know who I'm dealing with. Why are they talking about like freezing stuff? We're not talking about freezing stuff. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, that's it for this paper. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties